Dream Chasers, what's going on? Welcome to another episode here, brought to you by the one and only House of Hustle. You can go to houseofhustleltd.com for more information on everything we got going on there. And one thing you're going to learn about here on today's show is something in the pipeline is a record made by this guy, a few other people involved who aren't with us here today, but we're going to start the story begins here today. The rise of the Jellyfish begins today. What a great name.
Yes,
as
sir.
far as, you call it clickbait or whatever. You guys, your name stands out. You kind of joked before we went live here. It's a lot easier to say ROTJ or your name is AJ. So I will call him that, but you guys, you got to be with me on this one. What a great name to say. Oh, that's who's playing here tonight. Rise of the Jellyfish. Like, I think of SpongeBob.
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
Is that what it's from?
So the idea came from the SpongeBob party, but it was one of our friends who is literally five best friends sitting on a bonfire trying to come up with the DJ name. And then the one quiet friend in the group that just never says anything out of nowhere, he's just like Rise of the Jellyfish. And we're like, what the fuck are you talking about at first? And we're like, man, what are you smoking? And then a week or two went by and the SpongeBob party thing came to my mind. And I was like, yo, that could be a really cool thing to even use in our videos or visuals in the future and stuff like that. And then just the concept of jellyfish as a whole, the visual idea behind it. And I'm a fashion guy myself as well. And the fashion side of things that I want to get into eventually really made me stick with the name when it was originally brought up.
I love it.
Like you said, you see the name and you're like, fuck, who is this? Rise of the Jellyfish. Go see this shit.
Let me just say this too. And I feel like personally, I got really lucky picking the right name, because it wasn't until after I picked my name that I went and kind of tried to Google around and see if there's any other. There's really no other SEO for now. Yeah. I kind of got that on lock, but I've seen it happen with artists who, I won't name names because they probably don't want to be viewed like this, but man, you gotta nail in that artist name, because if you don't, it's just a huge uphill battle. Whether people trying to find you on Spotify, whatever. So, were you guys thinking about that? Like you said, when you picked the names,
there was a few names we even had picked before that we ended up looking online. I can't even remember them now, but there was a few options that we kept. We're like, okay, this is the one. And then we'd go search it up and somebody else already has an account or a spot like SoundCloud. And some were big, some were small, but just the idea that the name was already out there kind of pulled us away from choosing those names. We wanted something that really sticks out. And once you know it, that's it. I don't think there is going to be another Rise of the Jellyfish. So it's,
and if it is, it's going to be Rise of the Jellyfish UK. Right?
Yeah, there you go. So you're just going to throw a little country beside it and just call it a day. But yeah, that whole idea was kind of the reason why that name really, and at first we even had a few people that were like, the name is too long. The name is too weird or this. And at that time, our mentor was Wongo from Box of Cats. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Yeah, nice. So he's been our mentor for 5 years now.
Sweet, dude, that's interesting. Nice.
Yeah,
okay.
And he was the one that kind of told us stick with the name from the start, and I'm quite thankful for him for saying that, because now it's become a brand and we're turning it into a bigger and bigger brand day by day.
Yeah, I want to just dive into what you said too. You talked about having a mentor and working with him for the past 5 years, 100%. Without a doubt. And I know we're just getting to know each other. I don't know if you had a chance to check out just any of my music or whatever, but yeah. I could tell you no doubt at all. If I didn't go through the Tool Room Academy, or at least pursue some type of guidance on how to navigate this industry, we wouldn't be sitting here today. And I think there's a lot of up and coming artists who, even you guys have gotten to a pretty impressive level just from what I've seen, right? I'm sure you're like, oh, we want to be here, but what you've done so far is impressive. And
thank you.
Well, what's your words of wisdom to those aspiring artists out there that aren't working with someone to really hold their hand the whole way?
My biggest advice is, the best thing's been for us is having an open ear the whole time. Don't be afraid for feedback. That doesn't mean that you need to implement it into everything that you do. And I feel like that's something smaller artists are afraid of. They're afraid to go as somebody else because they don't want them to change their sound, or they don't want to listen or something. But it doesn't have to be that way, right? We've had three different mentors, Truth and Lies, West End, and Wongo. And we've taken something from each of them. There was certain stuff that even like Truth and Lies would tell us, and they even themselves would tell us, like, you don't have to listen to this. This is our perspective. Music is very perspective, right? So it's like, they may think something, you can take something out of it. So my biggest advice would be find a group that you can make a community with, whether it's upcoming artists or it's other artists that maybe are already a little bit established that you become friends with, and make that community within you. Like we have maybe a group of 5, including like FOOTWURK. And it's just like you send music to, they're your friends. You show them, you're like, hey, I just did this. And they're going to give you feedback. And just because they're your peers doesn't mean that you can't take their feedback, right? You can always learn something from somebody. And then the other part of having a mentor, which is like finding somebody genuinely to spend time with, not only will it improve your music if you're like doing lessons with them. One of the reasons I'm so thankful for Wongo is he taught me the whole business side. Like we have our own record label now. We want to grow it bigger.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's still small. Okay. It's still small. We're still starting it off, but like I spent.
You guys have releases?
We've only self-released. We haven't like distributed on Spotify or anything yet. It's been just like remixes, kind of building up the page, getting some followers there.
I love that. I didn't even realize that until now. So that's sweet.
Yeah. It's half an event company, half a record label. So we've already done 4 events. We've sold out 2 of them. Man. And then the record label is just kind of building slowly as we grow with us. But all of that wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the advice that I got from Wongo, from spending hours and hours with him, just picking his brain and getting him to tell me like, no, don't do this, do this. Like, this is why you do this. This is why the industry is this way. And like you said, we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for those things. And you can tell yourself that you can figure it out all on your own. It's going to take you 20 times longer than it is if you just have an open mind and an open ear and, you're willing to work with people.
I just like how early it seems you guys have launched your own label, even if it's self-releases only right now. The observation that I made coming into this industry was, I guess a little bit through like the eyes of like Mark Knight, just given the Tool Room connections. But I heard him saying on a podcast like recently, he's like, yeah, in my dream world, I'm doing, definitely 3 gigs a month or less. And, you look at any other artist out there, like eventually you become big and successful enough. Like first comes marriage, then comes the baby, whatever. Like it's only a matter of time until any successful artist starts their own label. Yeah. So you might as well just get a head start on it. And it sounds like that's what you guys were advised on, because I see a lot of guys who get caught up in doing 10 gigs a month. They haven't started their label yet. They're grinding. But the things that are going to give them sustainability and events too, as you mentioned, is like having that ability to really, I guess, level people up around you is really what that does in the long run.
100%. And like, even when speaking about the gig part, like another advice I can give any upcoming artist is at a certain point, you have to like, yes, it's cool. Like we want to play all the gigs. We want to test out our music, do this. But at a certain point, you actually got to ask yourself, is this gig helping me push my career? Like, is this gig genuinely, am I going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to be step further? If not, then you got to start limiting those gigs and spending the time on whether it's starting your own label, starting your own, we just launched a Twitch channel, like starting like your own Twitch, like doing stuff to give yourself different alleys to gain that extra eyes on you, or gain that extra notice of whether it's record labels or whether it's just fans in general, or just building the brand for yourself.
Are you guys, remind me, are you in Ottawa? Or I know you're in Canada.
We're in Edmonton.
Oh, you're in Edmonton.
Edmonton, Alberta.
Yeah. Nice, man.
Freezing land.
So
cold.
I was in Calgary my son was born in Calgary.
Oh, nice.
But one thing that I kind of regret from our time living there is we never made that, I don't know, 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive north, like however far it is. We never made it up to Edmonton, but I've been consistently impressed with every major Canadian city. I do, when I stack it against, the U.S. and I don't know if you noticed, but like I'm from the States. Yeah. I do think Canada's house culture is like a decade ahead of where the U.S. is in a good way. Like I wish the cities that my hometown Cleveland is not a house music town at all, but I think you kind of get that everywhere in Canada, which is cool.
Yeah, especially lately, like pre-COVID, we were super dubstep heavy. Like everywhere, it's just like very trap heavy, dubstep heavy, and then I don't know what it was during COVID, but there was like a major switch, and like one of our major clubs here in the city, I was the GM at up until recently. And all we did was we switched from doing like dubstep and drumming, all types of like EDM, and we turned into a only house music. So that kind of grew house music in Edmonton, because the most known club in the city that used to throw events now became an only house music club. So that gave us room to bring new artists, we brought Freecon last year, Sid, Max Styler, Bijou, Martin Hoger, Sampacho, Matroda. And it's just like bringing as many, whether it's bigger artists or smaller house artists. And we've started to build that culture in the city. There's a few people.
I'm kind of shocked at this too. I didn't realize how long you've been in the game. Like, it sounds like you've been in this.
So five years, but 5 years I stepped into it and I never looked back. So right when I started, so I used to be a university athlete. I played 2 sports in university.
Oh, what'd you play?
I played soccer and basketball.
Nice. Okay. There you go. Me too. I didn't play soccer, but basketball.
Ended up tearing my ACL my 3rd year of school. Kind of gave up that career. Yeah, that career just went down the shitter, unfortunately. And I just started thinking about what I wanted to do. And that's kind of when music came up. And this is another advice I'll give anybody out there. When you do decide to do music, there's a million ways you can put yourself in certain positions to improve your career. For me, I went and became a security guard at the club, and eventually moved up to the GM, ended up doing the bookings with the owner for the artist, which gave me then the point to be able to put myself on any show that I wanted, to connect with guys like Bijou, Matroda, Sampacho, people I wanted to whether release on their label, become friends with, or get to know. And doing those certain steps very early in my career from the start put me in the position that I am now, where I can actually make difference in the city and do certain things and have respect behind my name.
That's a really good entry point into the industry that I think is low-hanging fruit for any aspiring DJ that just wants to get their foot in the door and one step closer to getting gigs, if they are kind of in that infancy stage. So that's really cool that you did it, because it's kind of like, it's almost like the obvious way to do it, right? But no one wants to do it because they know it's a lot of work.
It is. So, listen, it's a lot of work, but one quote I absolutely love, and I want to even get tattooed on me for music wise, is if it was easy, everyone would do it. And that's something you got to remind yourself. If it was easy, everybody would be a famous DJ, but it's not. Not everybody is a famous artist, because you got to go through the grind. You have to be willing to do the shit nobody else was willing to do. And if you don't, then you're not going to put yourself up above them on that pedestal. You're just going to flatline the whole time.
I think, it's so true. And it's almost like no matter who you are too, because I'm sure you've seen it more than I have, but I think of some famous celebrities, artists, DJs that, they had a different career before DJing and producing, and they kind of assume that they'll be able to just completely transition that fan base or whatever it might be over, and everything's just going to click like their other career. And there's still a learning curve, even if you're Shaq, even if you're another popular name in our circle is James Haskell. I know they still had to build up a body of work where I think at this point now, obviously everyone knows Shaq's a DJ and he's good at it, but I think he started in 2015 or 2016, the way he's doing Diesel.
Even Diesel started in 2016, but he's been DJing for way longer. Even I remember early NBA days, he was still going and playing certain things, right? But like you said, those things, it took even Shaq a while to become Diesel. At first he was DJing and everybody would be like, is that Shaq? Nobody actually knew that he was but now DJ Diesel is a known name, and he took years to build that. Yeah.
So if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
If it was easy to make a record as good as Wait, like you guys got coming out on Hustle Tracks here soon, everyone would do it. What I love about this record, and again, for our audience, this is actually the reason why we're here today, is to talk about the record. It's been great getting to know AJ, but tell us, I guess, as much as you can about the story of this record. I personally like the, at least for me, and again, I'm getting my bearings on the industry, so I always say anything I say, take it with a grain of salt, but I feel like there was a lot of kind of tech house sounding music that was really popular that mimics what you guys have done with this record, between 2016 and 2019. And as soon as I heard this, it kind of took me back to those years, and I'm like, oh, this is refreshing, because I really like the deep synthiness to it, and it's also not necessarily the consistent flavor that we've put out over the last few years at House of Hustle. So tell us the story of Wait by ROTJ and FOOTWURK.
Well, Wait is the third or fourth collaboration between us and FOOTWURK. We had two very successful first releases. This would be the third, and then there's a fourth. When we originally made it, this track has gone through so many changes. First of all, what it sounded like at the start is completely different from what it sounds now. But when you have a solid idea, I'm sure, as you know that there is something in there. It's just a matter of getting it there. And one thing that really makes us and FOOTWURK really, really good to work together is and I'm not afraid to say this, always like give flowers where it's due. They are really, really good at an area which we're not as good, but then the areas that we're really, really good in, they kind of hand over the ball to us, and then we carry on. So when this track came together, I had built the idea, built the mid for it, and originally we had a different vocal, and then I sent it off to FOOTWURK. They put the nasty bass line under it. They got the low end of it sounding super, super good. And then 4 months of listening to it, maybe 5 months. This track was a year and a half in the work also. Like it went through so many changes. Listening to it, we felt the vocal wasn't good enough for what the track is. So we ended up going through, I found this really, really good sample that anybody that's going to listen to this track is going to absolutely love. I think it gives the track a soul. And that's something that Rise of Jellyfish is all about. If music doesn't have soul, if it doesn't have a little atmosphere in it, doesn't move you in some type of way, it's not the music for us. So combining all those elements together, I think really gave Wait the flavor it has and the energy it has, because Low End pushed it from the energy side on the low end side of things. And then we were able to give it that nice emotion to it and the soul that puts inside of it. So when you hear it, you're not just listening to it once and you're just moving on from it.
Yeah. I just love what you guys did with it. And it's also cool to see how you guys complement each other from a production perspective. That's one thing that I really got to experience firsthand recently on a record I did with 3 other artists, is you just get to see where everyone's strengths are. And actually the strengths, they come together and it makes a better track. The only bottleneck with collaborations that I've witnessed and in some cases even experienced is just like, well, actually, I'd want to know your take. I feel like you want to eliminate as much back and forth as possible, because that's where like tracks can just get lost. So what's your, speak more on that, because you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, usually, like, I'll be honest, it's just a hassle to be sending stuff back and forth. Like, even if you're not stemming them, if you're just like exporting the whole project, it's a hassle to go through 6, 7, 8 times, right? And like doing that throughout the process, I feel like prolongs it so much longer, because it's gonna take so much more time. Where usually my process is, whether if it's I approach you with an idea or somebody approaches me with an idea, you have the basic blueprint for it. You kind of build it to a point where it's like the idea is there. That's when you fire it off to whoever else is collaborating, and then they get it to the point where it's like, hey, it's pretty much done, but now we can add in the ear candies and all the little things to make it really, really good. And then you just have a mixing session. So in my opinion, 3 sessions maximum, you should be done the track between sending back and forth, unless again, it's a different scenario where you're changing the whole thing over a year time and you're going back and changing certain things.
I think that's a great rule of thumb. I've never really set a standard for myself, but I'm going to stick with that, because just from what I've seen, sometimes it doesn't even need to be that many times. No. It can get nitpicky, you know?
It can literally be you send me the thing and then I get it done, and then that's like the track is done.
Yeah. That's how you make bangers, folks.
Yes, sir.
But okay, so a little get to know AJ session here before we wind down. You're up in Edmonton. Are you a traveler at all? You've been?
I am.
Tell us about your travels.
I've traveled to 22 countries so far.
Wow.
So
okay.
I've moved quite a bit. I traveled for soccer quite a bit when I was younger. I grew up playing soccer since I was a kid.
Dude, so you're good. You're nice. You're playing it down a little bit. You got some skills.
I got the grind in me. I'm a very hard worker. I'm the youngest of 5 children, and I guess the biggest thing to tell you, I was supposed to go into med school when I decided to pursue this music career. So I have a lot on the line. I come from a family of nothing but engineers and doctors.
That's great.
The work ethic is there in me ever since I was a kid. I grew up playing professional soccer, went and played in Europe for a bit. When I moved here, I played a little bit. I gained weight when I moved here because I moved to snow with like 9 months a year of the snow. And I was like, God damn, where did I come? I traveled all over Europe a little bit.
What's your I see a little melanin in your skin. I think since I have some, it allows me to ask you that question. What's your background? Like, what's your ethnicity?
I'm Palestinian. Oh yeah, I'm Palestinian. I grew up in Jordan. I was born in Saudi Arabia, and then we lived a little bit in Dubai before moving here.
Oh, nice. So just Palestinian. Yeah. That's it.
Yes, sir.
Nice, man. Palestinian ballers.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
My dad has got a little bit South African in him, but it's like only 116, which gives me, if it gets really sunny out, I get pretty dark.
I love that. What,
how about yourself?
To keep it simple, half white, half black. I guess on the white side, Slovenian to be specific, black side, just American. But my wife's Canadian, and that's where we are right now is Toronto. So yeah. Got two little nuggets, two little babies under the age of 2. So that's a whole nother business, just running the kids' lives. But what's the best thing to eat in Edmonton in your book?
Best thing to eat in Edmonton.
Poutine's not as popular out there, is it? No, go ahead.
It's not really popular. One of my favorite things in Edmonton, there's something called, I don't know if you ever had a bao. If you know what a bao is. It's
Asian.
It's an Asian kind of bun, and then there's like different meats in it. So there's a place in Edmonton called Baiju. If you ever come to Edmonton, you have to check it out. Best cocktails in the city, hands down. Some of the best food you'll eat. It's so good. I live a block away, and I spend quite a time there.
Nice. I would not have expected bao and Edmonton to go together either. So that's pretty cool.
This place is pretty amazing. They're in like the toughest corner right across from the arena downtown, and they really put work into their restaurant.
That's how you know it's good. Yeah. It's not one of those places again. You would only know because you like listen to this podcast, and it's like
Oh no, nice. Anybody in Edmonton, I'm sure knows it.
Guys, you got to hit up AJ when you're out there in Alberta.
Yes, sir.
So cool, man. Well, thank you for coming on here, telling us a little bit about Wait, your upcoming record, guys. Depending on when you're listening to this, Wait drops on Hustle Tracks. It's Hustle Tracks number 11, dropping on 4/11. Yes. Or if you're in Europe, I guess 11/4. That's April 4th, or I'm sorry, April 11th. Yeah. But yeah, it's a weapon. Pre-save it, all that good stuff. I'm sure those links will be ready in the next. Again, it just depends on when you're listening, right? And if you're listening in 2026 and beyond, just go back and get it.
Just go to Spotify.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome,
cool. Yeah, AJ, any parting words of wisdom for our listeners today?
Believe in yourself. That's my biggest advice that I give anybody. If you don't genuinely believe yourself, doesn't matter what it is you're doing, you're not going to be successful in it. The mind plays games on you like no others. And if you're constantly fighting with your own mind for self-confidence, it's going to be an uphill battle your whole life. If you genuinely work hard, make sure you give yourself that self-belief, right? You're not working hard for nothing. If you're going to spend time to improve yourself, give yourself those flowers and let your mental health and mental state be on the same level as the work that you're putting in, everything else.
I heard you say that a couple of times too. Give yourself those flowers. I like that.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people go and they do a lot of work and they don't give themselves like I said, the flowers. Like they don't give themselves that pat on the back of being like, you've gone this far. If they only look at the goal that's ahead, but they don't look at what the path is that they've already crossed.
Amen. If you guys are, fans or new followers of ROTJ, Rise of the Jellyfish, make sure you go and follow him across all platforms, Instagram, Spotify. I don't know, you guys pretty active on Facebook, some other channels too.
Facebook is the only one we're not, but Spotify, Instagram, SoundCloud, Twitch. We have a Twitch channel.
Twitch, that's right.
Now. Yeah, so I do music lessons on there. I do gaming. I do professional gaming. Cool. Yeah,
okay.
Just keep it all live. We do.
That's people like the game. What are you playing? Just so our audience knows.
My 2 competitive games is FIFA and COD.
Okay.
But then I also play like survival games. Like I'm playing Path of Exile 2 right now.
Okay.
Marvel Rivals. Well, I keep it around, but mostly sports game is where I spend most of my time.
Nice, man. Yeah, dude. Gamer, baller, all around killer, guys. Go get connected with AJ. And if you're already here because you love the man, congratulations. You picked a good group to follow here. Rise of the Jellyfish will continue to rise. It's been great to have you and everyone here on Dream Chasers, powered by House of Hustle. This is where hustle meets house. Go to houseofhustleltd.com for more information. I feel like I said House of Hustle so many times there, and I just said it once more. So you guys rock. We'll catch you in the next episode. And remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.